You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. I am your host, Phoenix, and welcome to tonight's broadcast. Oh yeah, welcome everyone. This is Phoenix. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Tuesday, March 28th, 2017. And I hope your weekend was a good one. Things were good here in the northeastern United States. We found out just a moment ago we had a hot mic during the break. It is a technical difficulty. We have the heads up on it. Lucky told me on her program she had it also. I don't know if Kev had any problems with it. But anyway, I don't believe we could have. It was probably not over on iHeartRadio, but if you're listening at TFR, you may have picked that up. But no secrets were revealed because I am here with NeSe. He's joining me this evening. Hey, brother, how's it going?
It is going fantastic. And you know what? I should put it out there because I recall, because I've been listening to TFR most of the day today, and during the commercials and the breaks, I did hear some hot mics also. So I wish I would have remembered that. So maybe it is something deeper in the realms of our beloved fearless leader, Chris Gio. We'll probably have to dig into it and work his magic on it.
What I understand from some of the other hosts, he is working on it right now. So that situation is technical, man. It's technical stuff, and you know what I think about technology. We live with technology. It enables us program and TFR and all the great things going on. But I swear, NeSe, someday, somewhere, somebody's going to trip over an extension cord, and we're all going to die.
Right.
And we're so integrated into technology. I mean, we really are. Anyway, so what's up, man? And we do have a special guest joining us this evening at the bottom of the hour, and I believe everyone will enjoy that. We are going to be having, and it's an honor and opportunity, to interview the granddaddy of cannabis activists for the reservations, Alex Whiteplum of the Rose Redbud Reservation in South Dakota, an advocate for the cultivation of cannabis to assist the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people in efforts to create sustainable business opportunities for the enrollees that are currently living in third world conditions. And, this is going to be a good program. Last week, NeSe and myself, we discussed the industrial uses of hemp and cannabis and some of the attributes to that. So anyway, so what's going on, NeSe?
Well, the world keeps spinning, and crazy as it may seem, you know, there is beauty in the evilness. There is darkness in the light. There's dichotomy. And I don't know if you've been checking out the news. You got any good news? for us today at all, Phoenix?
Oh, definitely. I've got some good news here. And for our listeners, I know it's late. You guys just finished listening to Cab Baker over there in the EU. But hang on just a moment. Good news here. Theresa May has signed the letter in which will trigger Article 50 and begin Britain's process of leaving the EU. The PM has been photographed in the government's cabinet office as she signs the official letter to the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk. The letter will be delivered to the EU leader on Wednesday. That would be tomorrow, 9 months after Britain's Brexit vote in June last year. Ms. May will urge the country to come together, calling for both Leave and Remain supporters to put the referendum behind them and make a success of Brexit as the country embarks on a momentous journey. She will chair a meeting of the cabinet on Wednesday morning as the letter is dispatched to Brussels. So that's some good news. And also, I did see another clip that they have passed through Parliament in Scotland for a second referendum to be independent, for Scottish independence. And whenever they did that originally, NeSe, I talked to Cab Baker about this. I said I thought it was rigged. I thought they rigged the vote, and I think there was a majority for the Scottish to leave and become independent, so they'll get their second chance. I think they're being prompted on. So this is good news that Article 50 has been signed. A lot of people, when the Brexit happened, they said, yeah, that's one thing, but they'll never sign Article 50, which is necessary to actually do the process of leaving the European Union. And now it's happened. So they're sending the letter off to Brussels tomorrow. So strange things are happening in the world. There's like these movements for freedom, people trying to break away from the old control structures. And I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, it makes me think of the feasibility of what if the great state of Minnesota was to secede from the United States, or California or Texas, and these cliques that are occurring around the world as the puppeteers or the powers that shouldn't be play their giant game of Risk, and we're all the little pieces. Hopefully it'll be something better for humanity, but as we have experienced in our experiences, the powers that should not be continuously do us wrong. And so let's hold them accountable. Let's no lynching, though. No lynching, please.
No
Peaceful.
lynching. Yeah. You know what? Good luck with that, because here at Phoenix Rising Radio, we talk about the matrix of information, and the basis of that is factual information on the bottom. It's kind of shaped like a pyramid if you look at it just in the structure on volume wise. The bottom side, the basis, the foundation is truth and factual information. We go up from there, we go to a smaller part, which is historical replication. And then the very smallest part, the tip, is like what we call other, which is unsubstantiated information, rumor, etc., things that cannot be solidly proven, but have historically shown to have relevance and direction. But anyway, the second level, historical replication, it has been seen throughout history that once people get pushed to a point, there is a point that people will take it no more. And once they reach that point, NeSe, there is no wall high enough, no door strong enough to prevent the wrath of the people from reaching those who would oppress them. And that's historical. So, hopefully it won't become a lynching, but history tells us someday in some way that will happen if they keep pushing it and pushing it hard. But anyway.
Who was that said every now and then the tree of liberty has to be watered with the blood of patriots?
Patriots and tyrants. Was that Jefferson? I don't know. Here, let me do a search on that.
But it goes back to that whole thing of how can we, it'd be wonderful if we could flip a switch and then the collective consciousness would be like, oh, we are all here together and maybe we should stop harming each other. That would be wonderful, and maybe if Nibiru comes past and changes our electromagnetic field, it will give us the ability for mental telepathy, and then we'll be able to hear each other anyway, and then that would be quite an interesting time, huh?
Yeah, either that or it'll wipe all of our hard drives and our mental hard drives clean. I always think that the story of the Tower of Babel in the Bible, where everybody was just like mumbling and they didn't know what to do, was some like huge thing like that. It's like God hit the reset button, like, you know what, you guys need to have your hard drive wiped because you're going in the wrong direction.
Well, we get into semantics, like evil or the devil or set, or, we get into semantics. What if, the Tower of Babel actually meant the technology of today, and they smashed it, because that's all it would take. Right now, if they were to just wipe out all the cell phone towers, I mean, how many people do you know that still have a landline, a hard line in their home?
Oh, I know. Yeah, by the way, that was Thomas Jefferson for sure. I did double check that, the Tree of Liberty quote. Yeah, I don't have a hard line. A lot of people don't have hard lines in their phone, and people would be, man, they would be helpless without cell phones. A big thing is navigation, and the entire GPS system. Whenever I was in the military, in special operations, and I was in the Ranger Battalion, we actually. The military helped, of course, it was a military system, develop the GPS system. And the original GPS locators was like a huge radio pack that you wore on your back, had a big antenna on it, had like a curly cord, like an old landline phone. And the GPS device, I mean, like the keypad was like the size of a brick. And what they would do, seriously, dude, and they would jump special operations people, teams in different places in remote areas, and geolocate them by the satellites. And they would actually get hot signals from different areas, and they tested it that way and did it that way. But what a lot of people don't realize is the GPS system that was set up, of course, is for the military originally, like most of our technology, unfortunately. But there is a preset in there that in time of emergency or warfare, with a push of a button, man, all that stuff is like, it can be active, but it's wrong. And during a time of warfare or an active hot situation, if you think you're going to use your GPS to drive around, you're going to be shocked, because it'll take you like 10 or 15 miles from where you're supposed to be. You'll be totally lost. And it's done that by design, because they have different filters on this thing. For the military, it would be spot on. But for mom and pop, look out. Don't use your GPS. And people are so dependent upon it. That's what the point I'm trying to get at. How many people out there still know how to use a map? How many people know how to use a compass? It's one thing moving around your town, but a lot of people, even city dwellers, man, you take their GPS away, they're lost. They're lost.
And if I can give you any kind of survival tips, I suggest you guys go to grandma's or grandpa's or somebody that you know that's elderly, and ask for their old ancient microwave, and get that microwave and put it in your basement, and inside it put your batteries and the oldest school walkie-talkies you can find, and maybe a hard drive with all of your data on it, and put it inside that microwave and just leave it there. Because if the powers that shouldn't be utilize any kind of strategy on pushing us to the martial law, an electromagnetic pulse would do the trick. But then, your microwave was designed to keep radiation in, so in plain logic, it would keep radiation out. So then if you had batteries, flashlights, any kind of those electronics that you think would be beneficial if the proverbial fan was hit by the excrement, might be a good idea to put them in a microwave.
Yeah, let me go one step further, though. And that is an excellent trick. It's a expedient Faraday cage to protect your electronics. But one more tip. If you're going to do that and you're going to use an old microwave to store your electronics, cut the cord off of it. Snip. Cut that sucker off to prevent someone from saying, hey, wonder if the microwave works. They plug it in. I'm serious. If things happen. So if you're doing that, be sure and cut the cord off just for safety. And yeah, that's a good use for that. But yeah, a Faraday cage, EMP. EMP can also come naturally. You know, we've discussed that before here on this program with the Carrington type event from solar events and different things like that can wipe electronics out. But yeah, we're very dependent upon the technology of the day. Anyway.
Any other news you want to share with us?
Yeah, just taking a look around here. Yeah, a lot of political stuff here in the United States, as we know. Let's see, let's look at some of the global things. Wells Fargo, another bank in trouble. Wells Fargo to pay $110 million to settle a lawsuit over account abuses. Yeah, and that's whenever they were like divvying into people's accounts. Wells Fargo and Company said it agreed in principle to pay $110 million to settle a lawsuit by customers challenging its opening of accounts without their permission, a practice that led to a scandal that cost the bank's chief executive his job. Bank said on Tuesday it expects the settlement to resolve claims and 11 other pending class actions. See what else we got going on.
You know, the sad part about that, Phoenix, is now, you know, Wells Fargo, when it comes to tax time, they're going to say, oh, look, we had this 1.10 million loss because we had to pay off, you know, this thing we did wrong. And they're just going to write it off for taxes.
Oh, yeah, they factor that stuff in. Slap on the wrist. Nothing ever happens to them. It's incredible. See, what do we have? Oh, yeah, President Trump today, he signed a new executive order rolling back the Obama energy regulations. And the president will set a new course that is both pro-jobs and pro-environment. Now, it would appear that he is really going through and keeping his campaign promises, and that's driving a lot of people absolutely crazy. Whenever I saw him doing this, it was Obama's Clean Power Plan, apparently. And he signed this executive order that overturned all of that. It's going to reopen some of the mines. And it really was kind of sad because the stress that this has placed on communities and entire regions who were dependent upon coal. Coal has been dug out and used for centuries, millennia, actually. Coal has been used, and coke, another form of coal, to make steel, and is vital to industry and all of that. I actually think that a coal-fired power plant is safer. Well, I know it is safer than a nuclear plant, because the weird thing about coal fired power plants and nuclear power plants, they both do the same thing. They heat water to an extremely high state of activity, to steam state, to drive steam turbines. So I think I would rather my community or my local area use coal to power steam generators to turn turbines instead of nuclear incident. Because I tell you what, if a coal power plant shuts down, it just goes cold. There's no danger of an explosion. There's no radiation. There's none of these crazy things like we saw in Fukushima. Oh, by the way, last Thursday, I know you listened to it. We had a special program with Bob Gilpatrick from Boomers, and we were talking about Fukushima, radiation, and all of that going on. You know, with the salmon. The salmon fishing has been devastated, has really bad in Japan and also, but mostly along the west coast of the United States and Canada up into Alaska. They've actually declared an emergency for the salmon. I know the Native Americans have a special permission to salmon fish, and it's got to be hurting some of the tribes up in that area too, NeSe, that problem with the salmon.
Well, you know, when my naysaying goes on or my conspiracy theories start tingling, I think of this Fukushima. What if it was deliberately to occur to account for all of the crazy spikes in radiation? Because the good old sun has been doing some crazy, crazy stuff as far as radiation burst going on. And some people are claiming that it could be this celestial body that has the mass equivalent to Jupiter or a brown dwarf star, that it's causing the sun to have a little extra flares, which make these outbursts, more rampant, and we can't see the sun. Well, I can't see the sun, of course, but from what everybody keeps telling me, it's where are all the clear skies of yesteryear?
True.
When you could see the sun.
When you could see the sun, yeah.
But no matter what, that Fukushima, it is horrific, and it almost made me come to tears when I heard the stories about the elders and people that were terminally ill were giving their lives to go into the radioactive area to help with the cleanup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. We covered it closely right after the tsunami and all of that. We were really watching it a lot, and a lot of people were out there monitoring the radiation spikes. And, I told Bob Gilpatrick, I shared some stuff with him on Thursday. He had never even heard. When they had the hydrogen explosion there at Fukushima, it was literally like an atomic explosion. This thing went way up in the air, thousands of feet. And the way those reactors were constructed, you have the reactor on the bottom. They were, I believe, built by, was it General Electric? Anyway, they were built on the reactors on the bottom, the reactor core, of course, with the water. But above that, they actually stored the spent fuel rods above the reactor. And like a lot of designs, they put the spent fuel rods in a separate facility away from the reactor. But they actually have all these thousands of spent fuel rods right on top of the reactor. And when that hydrogen explosion happened, it literally blew these plutonium-based MOX fuel reactors miles. They found some of these reactor rods that were spent that had been dispersed by the explosion a mile away from the facility. And the problem is, NeSe, these facilities were right on the ocean. That's why they were damaged by the tsunami from the resulting tsunami from the earthquake. And those rods were actually blown out into the ocean, hundreds, if not thousands of them. So, Bob Gilpatrick saying it's the phytoplankton that's being destroyed in the Pacific, and that's what's causing the crash of the fisheries and all of the wildlife, sea life in the Pacific, because of the breakdown of the food chain, specifically the phytoplankton.
And you would think with Japan and their history of nuclear occurrences there, that they'd be like, maybe we should just stay away from nuclear.
You would think so.
Oh,
anyway.
Did I pronounce that wrong? Nuclear.
Yeah.
Nuclear.
Yeah. Yeah, and for some of our listeners, if you don't know, NeSe was saying he can't see the sun. Why can't you see the sun, NeSe? You wear shades all the time. What's up?
Yeah, my future is so bright. I need to wear shades, and I wear my sunglasses at night. But I am living with Gulf War illness, and in 1997, 98, I lost the sight in my left eye. And when I asked the VA why, they said, your sickness went into your eye. And I asked them to elaborate, and they couldn't. And in 2007, I lost the sight in my right eye. And I absolutely believe it's from living with Gulf War illness, because I was used as a experimental guinea pig in the Kuwait oil crisis. Excuse me, where I was given experimental inoculations that weren't tested by the FDA, and along with estimated 700,000 other veterans that are living and dying with this horrible ailment, there's still some people that need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, I tell you what, when that first started, the Gulf War illness, man, a lot of people were hurt from that very badly.
Well, which is a wonderful segue, because I think we're coming up to it. Are we almost?
We'll roll up on a break here. We probably got a couple minutes, but I had a friend who was a captain. He walked in the wrong door in a place, and they were deploying a bunch of people, and he started walking out, and they're like, "Oh, you can't leave, sir." He goes, "No, I'm not supposed to be there." Like, you can't leave without your shot. and they were giving everybody that cocktail shot that you got. I didn't get one, thank goodness. And they wouldn't let him out of the place until he got that shot. And so he got the shot, and he got really sick, man. He lost his hair and all kinds of other things. Horrible.
When I was doing my advocacy, I had a gentleman, a veteran, that brought me a shot record. And on the shot record, it said the batch number. And in the description area, it was stamped secret.
Whoa. That's just wrong, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was an experimental cocktail. People who may not have heard about that or never caught it for whatever reason. The Gulf War syndrome. It was brought on by experimental vaccines that were a cocktail of things that were supposed to protect soldiers from biological and chemical warfare.
Or turn them into super soldiers.
Super soldiers. Yeah. Jacob's
Which
laugh.
Is a good segue before we come up to the break. And before I forget, iHeartRadio. Truth Frequency now is on iHeartRadio. People, take the opportunity and download the app and listen wherever you go. And wherever you are, make it TFR. And I don't know if my time is matching yours, William, but are we at 30 seconds?
We have about 14 seconds according to my clock. And don't forget, we got hot mics tonight, baby. So be sure and hit your mute when we go into break. And again, when we come back from the break, we're going to have a special guest with us. And that'll be Alex Whiteplume. And it should be a very interesting show. We're going to be talking about a lot of things this evening.
So get your cannabis, or get your hemp, or get your marijuana, or get what you want and join us.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR, your protection from deception.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Here we are, Phoenix Rising with the Truth Frequency Radio. Thank you very much for being here with me, NeSe and Phoenix. Remember, iHeartRadio. Take the opportunity and listen to us wherever you go. Take us on the road. Also, visit us in the chat room. And hello, everybody in the chat. Sorry, I'm not able to do the show and chat at the same time. And I hope I can do you well and do you proud. And it takes me back years, and it is such an honor and such a privilege to have this gentleman on our show tonight, Mr. Alex Whiteplume. I call him the granddaddy of cannabis activism for the reservations. For almost 20 years, Mr. Alex Whiteplume has tried to grow cannabis on the reservation because he was a man well ahead of the time and realized the potential with over 100,000 byproducts now through the technological advancements that we have in the industrials of science. We now could, I claim, to save the world, save the universe with utilizing the cultivation of cannabis. And I would like to share the stage tonight with Mr. Alex Whiteplume. Are you there, sir?
You know what? He is not. I'd like to share the stage with him also, but for some reason he hasn't called in our switchboard yet, NeSe. Yeah, I don't see him. We have our switchboard up and running, and we do not have him here. He has not joined us yet.
Okay, if you allow me to mute, if you want to banter or if you want to call him.
No, you go for it. Give him a call and see if we can get him on the switchboard tonight. Now, please be advised, all day there's been a lot of technical difficulties on a lot of different stations. People have been reporting it with Skype, telephones, etc. One of those things going on, probably the Russians, NeSe. What do you think? Think we're being hacked by the Russians? Oh, he's gone. He's doing his thing. Well, let's see. Let's see if we can get Alex Whiteplume on the show here. NeSe will be right back. Now, this coming Thursday, we don't have a guest lined up. We will be doing open lines if you'd like to call in, and that'll be on this Thursday, unless we have a surprise guest. Now, we haven't heard back from the Webbots yet, a Cliff High of the Webbots, and he is going to join us sometime. Now, he hasn't put out his most recent report, the Wuju report for March. It's running kind of late. He said he was going to do a full report, but he has not put that out yet. So he's been appearing on a lot of programs. You know, I actually heard something really fascinating just a couple days ago with Cliff High. Someone had actually sent him some photographs from Antarctica. And we're going to have Cliff talk to us a little bit about this, but I was really fascinated about this. You know, the Webbots have been picking up a lot of information about Antarctica over the years, and with all the increased activity down there with John Kerry, Vladimir Putin, the patriarch of the Orthodox Church, going down there, all these different people from all around the world, different world leaders, and it is speculated that possibly Obama himself, when he went to Patagonia, jumped off and went over to Antarctica also. And the speculation is, and some of the rumors are, of course, about Antarctica, is that, you know, there's some amazing discoveries that have been found down there because the ice has been melting, and possible evidence from former civilizations that were existing there before we had, you know, it looks like what happened was a pole shift and covered Antarctica in ice and snow. Now, Cliff High actually had someone send him some amazing stuff. It's a gentleman who's an older gentleman who is a hiker. He's an outdoorsman. He loves to hike and adventure. And according to Cliff, this gentleman was down with permission on a hike in Antarctica. And it was a very set area and marked area where they could go to. And as Cliff was recounting the story, he said what happened was this gentleman knew of Cliff and his work and sent him when he was in Europe. The gentleman's from the United States, sent Cliff a packet of photographs, like 8 by 10 glossies, and a note. And it came in from Europe. And what it was photographic evidence and a story. And what it was this gentleman told Cliff that he had been on this sanctioned hike. It's like a professional, you know, explorer or whatever, adventurer. And this group of hikers that he was with, they were allowed to go in a certain area. And they were given GPS type devices that marked where they could go, where they couldn't go. And they decided to go off this trail that they were supposed to be on. And they went up through, and they were going through this little mountain pass. They were just curious. And once they got through this narrow mountain pass, lo and behold, there was this huge, like, plain, snow-covered, of course, and off in the distance was a huge pyramid. Not a mountain that looked like a pyramid. He said it was a pyramid. Huge. And when I say huge, the gentleman told Cliff that it was maybe 3 times larger than the Giza pyramid. And not only that, there was a door on the side of this thing, about a third way up, an arched doorway that was maybe 40 meters wide, maybe 100 meters high. The thing was huge, this doorway. And they were fascinated, and they started to take off walking towards this thing. So they're walking across this long expanse, headed in the direction of this pyramid, when the British military swooped in and gathered them all up. I guess it came in by helicopter and immediately escorted them off the continent. And he hid a roll of film. He had been taking pictures, hid a roll of film in his boot. And they got out of there. And he had these pictures developed, this evidence, and wrote on the back of these pictures some different things about them and sent them to Cliff. Now, Cliff has this information. He has these photographs, but he agreed to this gentleman that he would not release them to the public until he had died. And he's not a young man now. And so he's actually holding on to this information. That's one of the reasons why Cliff is so excited about the WebBot information about Antarctica. And hopefully we can get him on the air here really soon. And he can join us, and maybe we can find out a little bit more about this interesting facet of Antarctica. Exactly what is down there, what's going on there. Anyway, NeSe, are you there? Have you?
I'm here. Did Alex call in?
Not yet. I do not see him. Our switchboard is up, and I do not see him.
Well, I just got on the phone with him, and he said that he called in and prompted on 2. I'm trying to. Are we able to call him from?
We could possibly do that. Why don't you send me a text? Give me his phone number, and let's see if we can call him from the switchboard. How about that?
Okay, I'm going to jump off really quick again, and then I'll send you a text.
All right.
And then we'll try it again. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen.
No problem. Technology. I'm telling you, it's technology. He's calling in. He's trying to get into the switchboard, and he can't. But we will get him in here in just a moment, hopefully, one way or the other. There has to be a way that we can bring him in. Let's see here. Bear with me as I run over to a separate part of our switchboard here, see if I can bring him in. Yeah, we should be able to bring him in here in a moment. Hey, NeSe, if you can hear me, send that text to my cell phone. That'd be the easiest way to do it. Have too many windows open here. Anyway, back to the topic of Cliff High. Hopefully we will have him on soon. And I've got a lot of questions about the bots and some of the changes that he's had in them over the years, because there have been quite a few. And they have fine-tuned this to the point that it is amazing, absolutely amazing, the accuracy in some of the data they're picking up. Is it 100%? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nothing is. But the clarity that he has is very good. Very good. He did say one interesting thing also that I want to add to this little bit of information about the bots and what they're picking up. He was asked by the particular host that was interviewing him on the program about the Trump administration, if they would survive this current onslaught. And he said, yes. He said they're picking data up 18 to 19 months out where it's still a problem. And the Trump administration is basically still a pain in the keister for the deep state. So we'll see how that goes and see how that shakes out. Speaking of, we're waiting for our guest to get our guest in here. The entire thing with the Trump administration and what's going on, they were supposed to have an open hearing today on the so-called Russian investigation, but it was canceled. And it was canceled because of the head of the Intel chair, NeSe, of course, received some top secret information from a secret source. Now, everybody is freaking out. They want NeSe to step down. They want him to not chair that position, but he has every legal right to, and he's not going anywhere. He's told them flat out that he will not be leaving, and he will not relinquish that position. And they wanted today to have a hearing. Wait a second, I'm multitasking here. Yeah, bear with me here while I bring this phone number in. Yeah, hold on one second, NeSe. Let me see if I can give him a call. I was
Well,
talking
while
to
you're
everybody.
doing that, I'll share with a little preview of Mr. Alex Whiteplume.
Okay.
In 1998, Alex Whiteplume started growing hemp on his reservation. He is part of the Oglala Lakota people of the Pine Ridge Reservation. He lives roughly about 10 minutes away from the Wounded Knee Massacre site. He was ahead of his time. He knew of the potential that cannabis can have on so many different levels of helping people in a sustainable and economic business possibilities. And so he planted it. And then after he planted it and it started growing, the Drug Enforcement Agency came in and ripped it up. And they did this, and Alex planted again, and then they ripped it up again. And he continued to do this. Now, if you were to look at California and Colorado alone in the last 4 years had made almost $8 billion in just the cannabis utilized as health maintenance. And I have a challenge with calling it, as we've discussed before, medicine, because if we call it medicine, then they will claim that we have to go to a doctor to get our medicine. My daughter is actually talking to Alex right now on the phone. I think they're checking to make sure he has the right number. I think that may have been the issue. I'm not quite sure. But
See if he can't get the right number there, NeSe, because we're having trouble here on the switchboard even calling him in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
for some reason, let me say this: there have been trouble with Skype all around the world today, and I believe this may be a Skype issue. We can't even call him from Skype. So yeah, he's going to have to make sure that he has the proper number. And again, that's 866-378-7884, and that should bring him in.
Right. Oh, 1 second. Yes, Infinity. He had the right number? And did he prompt number 2? It'll ask him to prompt to call in to the guest. You have to hit number 2. If you could check one more time and just let me know. Thank you, ma'am. I'm turning one of my daughters into a producer.
There you go. All right. Very handy to have. Yeah, Lady X was my producer. You should have seen her when we had the hot mics earlier in the program. I didn't know that other hosts had been having these problems. And she came in, she's like, the mic's hot. I'm like, okay. That's whenever we were in between the breaks. And whenever you called in and said hi. Yeah, the mic was actually hot. And they've been having this problem all day. But again, it's a technological thing. You know.
Well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to continue on more with the cannabis on the reservations. Alex is way more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to the laws specifically with the reservation. But the one thing that I know for certain is that when the original treaties were signed with most indigenous tribes in North America, they were told that they could utilize every plant that is grown within the continental United States. And so, because this was basically the way of the native people, they utilized the plants for their full potential. And so it never was illegal for the reservations to grow cannabis in the first place. But the federal government, they flex their muscles and they send out their dogs, literally. And as we discussed before about the whole conspiracies within the cannabis world, when prohibition failed, what were they going to do with those thousands of agents? Mm-hmm. Thousands of agents were out of a job. and lo and behold, the DEA is created. And then the shift immediately goes to that horrible, horrible marijuana plant.
Yeah. Yeah. If everyone missed last Tuesday's program, we did an entire program on the industrial and agricultural uses of hemp and how valuable it has been to this nation, and what a valuable product it can be. Now, oh, you know what? Here's some news that you may find interesting. Lake found this right before the program, and it's right on topic here. Here, bear with me. Yeah, there was a recall. We had a recall with marijuana in one of the states. I can't seem to find it right now. Bear with me.
You know, I've shared with it before that for 15 years I was asking, literally begging the VA to let me use cannabis. And after 15 years, in 2014, they prescribed me synthetic cannabis. Mm-hmm. And within, I think, 2.5 years, I was almost able to get completely off the hillbilly heroin or the OxyContins. And I went in there and said, hey, I'm almost off these OxyContins. I think I can do it in 2 months. And they said, we're sorry, we're taking away your synthetic cannabis. And they said I had to stay on the OxyContins. And I think
that is a plague. That is a plague. OxyContin and all those pain things. You know, I swear this has led to heroin usage. I have a friend who is a wonderful guy. He lives in Ohio. He's an accountant, and his son-in-law ran into a horrible problem. He broke his leg. Really bad injury. Real good guy, you know, veteran, construction worker, etc. And they put him on pain medication, but his insurance wouldn't cover more treatments or something. I forget the long and short of it, but he ended up going off of his medication early, and he ended up buying that stuff on the street. And then, of course, the cheapest way he could go was heroin. So this young man, veteran, ends up being a heroin addict, and it's all because of the medication and improper monitoring of his medical treatment that caused him to turn to heroin. And dude, this is an epidemic, even in rural areas. The misuse of pain medications and the overprescribing of pain medications has led to a heroin epidemic in this country.
Well, and I think it was William Cooper that I heard a long time ago say, if you really want to be horrified by where they go from the alphabet agencies, research retired DEA agents. You know, because they're right in the belly of the beast, because, you know, where there is heroin and drugs, you know, then there's usually all sorts of debauchery. And like they try to claim that cannabis is the gateway drug to these worse drugs, you know, usually isn't it alcohol, or isn't it coffee, or isn't it sugar that would be considered the gateway drug because we want that better fix?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are addicted to sugar, that's for sure. Oh, I found the article. Natural Society, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, OLCC, issued its first ever marijuana recall after samples of Blue Magoo marijuana were found to contain a level of pesticide residue that exceeds the state's limit. The cannabis brand is sold at Mapleton, Oregon store. So if you're listening in Oregon, where it's legal, return your Blue Magoo. There's been a recall. The OLCC, which oversees retail sales of recreational marijuana, said samples of Blue Magoo failed to test for pyrethrin levels. Pyrethrin is a mixture of 6 chemicals that are extracted from some type of plant. I can't even name this. It's Latin and as long as my arm. It's considered a natural insecticide and is sometimes used on organic products. but it's far from safe. It's toxic to mammals, especially cats, as well as fish and insects. It's also toxic to bees. Oh my gosh! So this is a recall that they have in Oregon for pesticides on cannabis. Now, how many states out there actually have legalized the use of cannabis in their states? Is it 5 or 6?
I mean, recreational or across the board? Or, I mean, there's a bunch of them. Over 20, over 20 have done the so-called medicinal marijuana. But then I think some of them went up for vote of doing it across the board. There actually, I think, was a bill last week that was introduced about the across the board use of medical marijuana from the federal government. You know, but they're constantly putting in all of these bills and everything. But if you look at these bills and where and who they assist, it goes back to the big money makers. It assists the pharmaceuticals, and where it just
say it isn't so. How could that be?
Right.
Really,
Yeah,
big money? You're telling me that big money's involved in this? No. Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, if they can smell $1 in this and huge profits, they go for it. And you know, it may appear to be a grassroots movement, no pun intended, but it ends up being a huge boon somehow to the pharmaceuticals. That's what they're going for. The pharmaceuticals want this so bad. They want control over it. The synthetic marijuana for medical use. They and you say they have that, and you were using it, right?
Well,